The flight attendant slid a new boarding pass across the small tray table in front of me at 6:43 on a Wednesday morning on a flight from Detroit to Salt Lake City, and the smile on her face was the smile a person wears when they are doing two things at once. Her name tag said Lisbeth. She was maybe 30. She had silver studs in her ears and a small silver ring on the chain around her neck, and the careful posture of a person who had been on her feet for a lot of years. She had been doing the boarding area drink cart pass through first class. The plane had not yet pushed back from the gate. The seatbelt sign was still off. The cabin was about 2/3 full. She said in a normal voice, the voice of an attendant doing a routine reseat, "Ms. Holloway, we have you in 14C. The gate agent flagged the small reseat for you. If you would not mind moving forward, I will help you with your bag." I had not been in 14C. I had been in 27A, by the window, 11 rows back, where I had been settling in with the novel I had brought and the headphones I had pulled out of my carry-on. The reassignment did not make sense. I had not been upgraded. 14C was not in first class. 14C was an aisle seat in the front of economy, which was a marginally better seat than 27A, but not the kind of seat an airline would proactively reassign somebody to without a reason. I looked up at her. The smile on her face was holding steady, but the eyes above the smile were not part of the smile. The eyes were looking at me, and only at me, very specifically, with a small, steady focus that I have seen before in nurses and in trauma social workers, and in the kind of teachers who are good at handling a classroom when something has gone wrong, but no child knows it has gone wrong yet. She said, "If you would just grab your things, ma'am, we are going to push back in 8 minutes, and I would like to have you settled." I stood up. I took my bag from under the seat. I took my novel and my headphones. She walked ahead of me up the aisle. I followed her past row 26 and 25, and so on, past the small kitchen galley, past the curtain that separated economy from first class, and then back into economy, to row 14, which was empty except for a window seat passenger who was already asleep with a neck pillow on. She gestured to the aisle seat. I sat down. She took my bag and slid it into the overhead bin above me. She bent down, as if she was checking the magazine pocket in front of me for trash, and said, in a voice that did not carry past the row, "Ms. Holloway, I am going to be back in 2 minutes. Stay here. Do not get up to go to the bathroom. Do not look back toward your old seat. Do not turn around for any reason until I come get you. I will explain in a minute. You are safe. Please trust me for 2 minutes." She straightened. She smiled at the woman across the aisle from me. She walked toward the front galley. "Hit subscribe. Drop your city in the comments. Stay to the end. There is a thing I learned in the next 90 minutes about a category of person in airports that I had been walking past my entire adult life without seeing. And the seeing has changed how I move through every public space I have been in since. Listen all the way through. I sat in 14C, and I did exactly what she had told me to do. I did not turn around. I opened my novel. I did not read it. I held it in my lap with the page open to where I had stopped. I tried to make my face look like the face of a person reading a novel on an early morning flight. Lisbeth came back 4 minutes later. She crouched down by my row, the way attendants crouch when they are talking to a small child or to a passenger who has spilled something. She had a small, clear plastic cup of water in her hand. She offered it to me. I took it. She said, in the same voice that did not carry past the row, "Ms. Holloway, there is a man in 26B. He boarded the flight at gate B12 31 minutes ago. He approached the gate agent before boarding. He asked the gate agent what time the passenger in 27A would be deplaning in Salt Lake City. He used your full name. He said he was your brother. He said he was trying to surprise you. The gate agent, whose name is Aurelio Manzano, has been a gate agent for 19 years. He told the man that he could not share passenger information for any reason, and that if the man was meeting somebody in Salt Lake, he could wait at baggage claim. The man left the desk. Aurelio watched him. The man went to a chair across from the gate, sat down, and pulled out his phone. He did not put any items in any bag the way a person normally does after being told no. He sat with his hands folded over his phone screen, looking up at the gate for the next 11 minutes. Aurelio pulled your reservation. Your reservation is in your name only. Your emergency contact is a woman named Petra Rune in Ann Arbor. Your reservation does not list a brother. Aurelio called the operations supervisor. The operations supervisor called the captain. The captain called me. We made a decision in about 4 minutes. The decision was that we were going to seat you somewhere where the man could not directly see you, that we were going to move you up to row 14 so that you would be near the galley and near the cockpit and near me, that we were going to allow the man to board the flight, that we were going to watch him for the entire flight, and that we were going to have law enforcement meet us at the gate in Salt Lake. The reason we are not removing him from the flight in Detroit is that, by the laws of the state of Michigan and the rules of the airline, he has not done anything illegal yet. The reason we are watching him very closely is that the asking he did at the gate is the asking that, in the pattern recognition we are trained in, is the asking that almost never has a benign explanation. Ms. Holloway, do you have a brother? I sat in 14C. The water cup was in my hand. The novel was open in my lap. My face was, by every measure I was able to take of it, a normal reading face. I said, I have one brother. He is 2 years older than me. He lives in Portland, Oregon. I spoke to him on the phone last night. He does not know I am flying today. He is not on this plane. She said, okay, then the man in 26B is not your brother. Do you have any reason to think anybody might be following you? Anybody. Any reason. Even one you have been trying not to think about. I thought about it. I want to tell you who I am, because the rest of this does not make sense without it. My name is Audra Holloway. I am 39 years old. I am a labor and delivery nurse at a hospital in Ann Arbor. I had been flying to Salt Lake City for a 4-day conference on neonatal trauma response that I had registered for 9 months earlier. I had been single for the previous 2 years, since the end of a long and quiet relationship that had ended without drama. I lived alone in a small house in a neighborhood with 3 churches and a corner store. I had a dog named Lycan who was being watched by my neighbor for the week. I had, by every measure I could take of my own life, no reason to be followed. Except, I had a reason. The reason had been at the edges of my life for the last 7 weeks, and I had been trying not to look at it directly. A patient's husband, whose wife had delivered a baby in our unit 8 weeks earlier, had begun, in the days after the discharge, to show up at the hospital during my shifts. He had come 3 times. The first time had been to deliver flowers to thank the unit, which had not been unusual. The second time had been to ask, at the front desk of our unit, when I was working next, which had been unusual. The third time had been to wait for 90 minutes in the visitor lounge until my shift had ended, at which point he had attempted to follow me out of the hospital to the parking structure, and I had taken a different exit, and I had not seen him again. The fourth time, 2 weeks after the third, he had called the unit and had asked, on the phone, whether I worked there. The charge nurse had told him she could not share employee information. He had called back twice that day. The charge nurse had filed a formal report with hospital security. Security had told me. Security had recommended that I file a personal restraining order. I had not filed one yet. I had been telling myself I was overreacting. I had been telling myself the man was probably just confused, grateful, lonely, processing something complicated about the birth of his daughter. I had been telling myself that the cost of filing a restraining order against the husband of a patient was too high, professionally and personally, given that I might be wrong, and that the man had not, by any strict reading, done anything illegal. The patient's husband was named Cedric Vance. He was 34. He worked as a regional sales manager for a company that I had not, in 7 weeks, looked up. I had been afraid of looking him up. I had been telling myself the looking up was a sign of paranoia. I had registered for the Salt Lake City conference 9 months earlier. The registration had been public, in the sense that the hospital had a small internal newsletter that had listed the names of staff attending. I had not posted about the trip anywhere. I had not told anybody outside of my charge nurse, my mother, my brother in Portland, and Petra in Ann Arbor, who was watching the dog, that I was going. I told Lisbeth in 3 sentences about Cedric Vance. Her face did not change. She said, "Okay, I am going to ask the captain in about 90 seconds to pull up the manifest and to check whether the man in 26B is named Cedric Vance. If he is, the situation is what we think it is, and we will proceed accordingly. If he is not, we have a different situation, and we will also proceed accordingly. Either way, you are not in 27A, and you are not going to be in 27A again, and you are not going to be alone in any space on this aircraft or in the Salt Lake airport. Stay where you are. Read your book. Do not turn around. Do not get up. I will be back in 5 minutes." She walked away. I held the novel. I did not read it. I drank the water. She came back 6 minutes later. She crouched down again. She said, "The man in 26B is named Cedric Vance. The captain has been in contact with Salt Lake City law enforcement. There will be 2 officers at the jet bridge when we deplane. The 2 officers will board the aircraft before any other passenger is permitted to exit. The officers will, in plain clothes, approach the man and ask him to step into a small room near the gate for what they will describe as a routine identity check. The officers will not, in any way that signals to the man that you are aware of him, indicate that the situation is connected to you. You will be deplaned through the front of the aircraft after the officers have secured him. You will be escorted, by me and by a second flight attendant, through a non-public corridor to an office at the airport, where you will meet with the officers and with a victim advocate who is being driven to the airport now from a domestic violence services organization in Salt Lake City. You will not be in any public space at the airport. You will not collect your own luggage. We will have it brought to you. Your hotel reservation will be flagged, and an officer will accompany you to the hotel, where you will be staying in a different room than the one you originally booked, under a different name on the door registry. The conference you are attending will be contacted, with your permission, and you will be moved to a different hotel altogether if you prefer. You will not, for the duration of your stay in Salt Lake City, be alone unless you choose to be alone. The reason we are doing all of this is that the man in 26B paid for his ticket in cash at the airport this morning. He did not have a reservation before this morning. He saw your reservation somewhere. He decided, sometime between 2 days ago and today, to be on this flight. He drove from Ann Arbor to Detroit. He waited until you boarded. He boarded after you. He selected the seat behind you in the same row of the aircraft. He did not bring any checked luggage. He has one small backpack. He has been sitting in 26B with his hands on his knees, looking forward, not reading, not on his phone, not making any of the small, ordinary motions a person makes during boarding. He is, by every operational indication, here for one reason. The reason is you. Ms. Holloway, I am sorry. The next several hours are going to be a lot. We are going to be with you through all of them. You are not alone on this plane. You have never been alone on this plane. You boarded an airline that has been running anti-trafficking and personal threat training programs for its crew for the last 11 years, and you happened to walk through a gate run by Aurelio Manzano, who has been the senior gate agent at gate B12 for 9 years. And you happen to be on a flight where I am the lead attendant today, and you happen to have a man following you who made the small mistake of using a relationship he did not actually have when he asked at the gate. The mistake is what gave us the opening. The opening is what gave us this entire response. Most of the time, a man like Cedric Vance gets onto a plane behind a woman he is following, and the flight crew never knows because the man does not make a mistake at the gate. Today he made one. We caught it. We are going to handle it. I need you to trust us for the next 2 hours and 28 minutes until we land. I sat in 14C. I cried a little bit. I cried quietly. The woman across the aisle from me was watching a movie with headphones on and did not notice. The man in the window seat next to me was still asleep. I said, "I trust you. Thank you." Lisbeth said, "I am going to bring you breakfast in a few minutes. The crew is going to come check on you every 15 minutes for the rest of the flight, on a rotation, so that if anybody is watching us, they will see something that looks like routine attendant pass-throughs. You can read your book. You can sleep if you can sleep. You can eat. You can do anything you want except turn around and except get up. If you need the bathroom, press your call button and I will come walk you to the front lavatory, which we are reserving for you. We have you. We have you the whole way." The flight took 2 hours and 26 minutes. I read approximately 4 pages of my novel. I ate a small breakfast of eggs and a roll. I drank 2 cups of coffee. I did not turn around. I did not get up. We landed in Salt Lake City. I want to skip the rest because the rest is procedural and is not the part of this story I want to tell you. I will tell you the headlines. The 2 plainclothes officers boarded the plane before any passenger was permitted to disembark. They approached Cedric Vance. He stood up calmly. He went with them. He did not, at any point during the boarding or the flight or the deplaning, look toward row 14. He did not see me at any point. The officers walked him off the plane. I was deplaned 5 minutes later through the front of the aircraft, with Lisbeth on one side of me and a second attendant named Helga on the other side of me. We walked up a jet bridge that the airport had cleared for us. We took a service elevator to an office on the 2nd level. The office had 2 officers in it. The office had a woman named Inez Cortázar, who was the victim advocate Lisbeth had told me about, who was sitting at a small table with a cup of coffee for me and a folder of resources. I spent 4 hours in that office. I gave a statement. The officers, with my consent, contacted the security office at my hospital in Ann Arbor and the local police in my town. The combination of the statement I gave in Salt Lake, the report security had on file from 7 weeks earlier, and the fact that Cedric Vance had purchased a ticket on a flight to a city he had no business reason to be in, on the same day as a nurse whose schedule he had been investigating for 2 months, was enough to obtain an emergency protective order from a Michigan judge by the end of that afternoon. Cedric Vance was charged in Utah with criminal stalking based on what he had done in Utah airspace, which was apparently a sufficient jurisdictional question. He was extradited back to Michigan 2 weeks later, where he was charged with additional counts related to his conduct at the hospital. He took a plea 4 months later. He is currently in a Michigan state facility on a sentence I am not going to specify because the case has been documented enough in local press that anybody who wanted to look it up could find it, and I would prefer not to be the one to publish his name further than it has already been published. His wife divorced him 3 months after his arrest. She moved with her infant daughter to a different state. She wrote me a letter, 6 weeks after the move, that arrived through the victim advocate's office. The letter was 4 pages long. The letter said, in summary, that she had been trying to leave him for 2 years before her pregnancy, that she had been unable to leave because of the pregnancy, that she had hoped the birth of the baby would give her the leverage to leave, that he had become more controlling rather than less after the baby had been born, that she had been quietly afraid that he had developed an obsession with somebody in the hospital, and that she was sorry she had not known how to warn me. She did not ask me to write back. I did write back. We have written each other once every 3 or 4 months since. We are not exactly friends. We are something different. We are 2 women whose lives had been adjacent to the same man and who survived him and who are slowly figuring out what it means to know each other now. I want to tell you about the people who I am still in contact with from that morning. Lisbeth, the flight attendant, sends me a text on the third Wednesday of every month. The text says the same thing every time. The text says, "Just checking. Hope you are well." I write back the same way every time. The same way is, "I am well. Hope you are too." The exchange takes 90 seconds. It is one of the most reliable things in my life. Aurelio Manzano, the gate agent, retired 6 months after that flight. I did not know him before the flight. I have not met him since the flight. The airline, with my consent, forwarded him a letter I wrote him. I have not heard back. I do not need to. The letter was for him. The not hearing back is also for him. He is allowed to receive a thank you without owing a response. The hospital where I work has revised its security protocols. The revision came partly because of my case, and partly because of a separate case a year earlier that involved a different staff member and a different patient family. The revision included faster pathways to internal restraining orders for staff, dedicated security escorts for staff working night shifts, and training for charge nurses on how to recognize early warning signs of patient-family fixation on individual staff members. I was part of the working group that drafted the new protocols. The drafting was hard. The drafting was also, in a way I am still figuring out, the most important professional work I have ever done. I want to leave you with one thing. There is a category of person in our public spaces, mostly women, who have been trained to notice. The training is sometimes formal. The training is sometimes the slow accumulation of years of small, attentive work. The training is sometimes both. The people in this category are flight attendants, hotel desk clerks, gate agents, restaurant hostesses, retail managers, librarians, school secretaries, hospital triage nurses. They have been watching the public space they work in for long enough that they recognize the small, wrong things. A man asking the wrong question at the wrong moment. A pair of eyes following a woman across a lobby. A passenger who is not making the ordinary small motions of a person settling in. These people have, between them, an enormous and almost entirely unrecorded body of knowledge about what is normal in the public spaces they work in and what is not. They use this knowledge, often, to do small, careful interventions that the rest of us never see, on behalf of strangers they will never know the names of. The interventions have been happening mostly in silence. The silence is partly because the interventions are most effective when they are quiet. The silence is partly because we, as a culture, have not built any habit of recognizing the work that is being done on our behalf in the public spaces we move through. The silence is partly because the people who do this work have been trained, mostly, not to expect recognition. I am asking you to do one small thing this week. I am asking you to notice, in one public space you walk through, the person who is paying the most attention to the room. The grocery cashier who looks up between transactions. The flight attendant who is doing the boarding pass scan and is also watching the gate. The desk clerk at the gym who is greeting every member by name and is also watching who is not a member. The bartender who is making your drink and is also tracking which young woman across the room has had her drink out of her sight for too long. They are doing two jobs at once. The job you can see is the small one. The job you cannot see is the one that, on rare bad days, saves a life. The next time one of these people serves you, look them in the eye. Use their name if it is on a name tag. Thank them by name for the small visible thing they did. The thanking is for the visible thing. The unspoken acknowledgement of the invisible thing is the gift you are also giving them. The gift of saying, "I see that you are paying attention. I am glad you are here." You are not going to know, mostly, which of those people, on which day, are going to make the call that changes a stranger's life. You are not going to know if it is the cashier this Tuesday, or the flight attendant this Thursday, or the desk clerk this Saturday. You are not going to know which of them is going to recognize the wrong question, or the wrong angle of one stranger's eyes on another stranger, or the small, ordinary motion that somebody is not making. You are not going to know in advance. They are not going to know in advance either. They are going to know in the moment. Your job is to be one of the people who, before the moment, let them know that we see them. Lisbeth is at home in Detroit right now. It is a Thursday afternoon. She is between flights. She has a small dog named Pip who is asleep on her couch. She has a son in his second year of college. She has, on the wall above her dining table, a small framed thank you note from the airline, dated 2 years ago, for an unrelated incident on a different flight that she handled the way she handled mine. She has not framed the note about my flight. She has told me, when I asked, that she does not frame the recent ones. She frames them only after enough years have gone by that they have become history. The current ones, she said, are still working. The working ones do not go on the wall yet. She is going to fly back to work tomorrow. She is going to walk down a jet bridge in a Navy uniform and a small silver ring on a chain. She is going to look every single passenger in the eye as they board. She is going to notice the small wrong things if there are any. She is going to do what she does. The next time you fly, look the attendant in the eye when she greets you. Say thank you. Use her name from her name tag. Mean it. The thanking is small. The small things add up, in the lives of the people who are paying attention for us, into the kind of recognition that keeps them paying attention. Pay attention to the people who are paying attention. That is the entire lesson. That is everything I learned at 6:43 on a Wednesday morning on a flight from Detroit to Salt Lake City, when a woman in a Navy uniform handed me a new boarding pass and told me to sit in 14C. I sat in 14C. She had me the whole way.